Abuja, the capital city of Nigeria, has been plagued by a high number of building collapses in recent years. A significant concern, highlighting various underlying issues in the construction industry. 2 incidents have been recorded in 2 weeks alone. The latest, being, of course, being a 5-story building attached to the Westbrook Hotel in the Garki area of the Federal Capital Territory, which collapsed Monday night. These collapses have been attributed to various issues, including poor construction practices, use of substandard materials, lack of adherence to building regulations, and inadequate oversight by regulatory bodies. Rapid urbanization and the high demand for housing have exacerbated these problems, leading to rushed and often unsafe construction of projects. The consequences are devastating. What factors contribute to this situation, and how can it be nipped in the bud? Hopefully, our guests will give us insightful answers as we discuss frequent building collapse in Abuja. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I'm Ikeria Clinton. Thanks for joining us. Joining us in the studio to have this conversation is Engineer Kashim Ali. He's a former president, Nigerian Society of Engineers, NSA, and the former president, Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN. It's glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And hopefully we'll be joined by Mr. Bashir Garga, Zonal Director, NEMA, North Central. He will be joining, or we're hoping that he will join us very soon. But let's start with you, Engineer Kashim. 2 buildings in 2 weeks. Doesn't look good. Do we have anything to worry about?
So much to worry about. Even 1 building in a year is bad news. Especially in Abuja. It's extremely bad news. And I say this because Abuja itself is a regulated city. FCT is a regulated city because the boundary of Abuja is clearly demarcated. The boundary of the city is clearly demarcated. The plots on which people build are specifically demarcated, and regulations abound as to how those lands could be put into use. In that instance, therefore, an individual or a corporation wishing to put a structure, a building, for instance, on a plot, will have to get permission from the Development Control Department of the FCT. And the permission derives from information on exactly what to be done there. You want to do a foundation for your structure, the design has to be provided. You want to do the frames for your structure, have to be provided. Aesthetics, designs have to be, everything has to be completed before you can get an approval to proceed. So in a circumstance where a structure like that will still come down, it gives cause for extreme worry at a time like this.
Now, what, in your opinion, what do you think are the primary causes of these building collapse? Because we had about 2 of them last year, and this year again.
From my experience, these things often derive from poor construction method. Most of the time, use of inappropriate methods and also inappropriate materials for the construction. And of course, the truth, and if we have to be honest with ourselves, is there's no way the Department of Environmental Control will be able to monitor every site. They should ordinarily expect some responsibility on the part of the promoters of this project. If, for instance, an individual or a corporation is putting up a structure, they also have a responsibility because they are the end users of those products. And you know that a building not properly constructed will come down one way or the other. So even if it doesn't come down during construction, it will still come down after construction. So why would you do an investment clearly knowing that it's going to be a loss? But it's difficult to understand why. But what we've heard as much is that sometimes some of them complain that paying professionals is difficult for them. Difficult just because they are not going to be direct users of those structures. If you notice, these structures that collapse, we've done a study. The structures that collapse often are structures meant for public use. Who either build these structures to sell to people or build to rent out. Most of them that collapse are for such public use. So the question is, has it anything to do with the typical attitude of some people who believe that whatever you are going to sell out to people doesn't need to be of good quality? You just want to get their money, but without giving them the worth of their money. That is what we see happening. Because I had the unfortunate privilege of superintending over a committee to investigate a structure like that many years ago. And our finding was that the structure was properly designed. The fellow got an architect to do the initial design. He got the structural engineer to do the frames for him. They were well done. Once they had finished, he claimed he had no need for them because he had his own internal team to do supervision. And that is how they started work. And the structure came down. We found out that it was because of greed. Yes, a structure that was supposed to stop at a particular point was extended by almost 15 meters without a redesign. They just thought that, okay, just extend it. And that, the whole structure came down. But that is not the horrible thing about the thing. The owner successfully went to the CAC to remove all the, I don't know how they did it, but they removed all the documents relating to them in their filing, even in CAC, because we had the director legal then as a member of the team who went to CAC to do due diligence. There was nothing about and all the people who were supposed to have been the owners denied ownership of that structure. The engineer that was said to have done supervision, they claim he died in the incident. So there was nobody to hold.
Now, what then is the role of the regulatory bodies? Because from what you were saying now, I think there was really oversight function here.
Exactly. There was oversight for a failure of oversight function, and in fact, we had that is why I say it is an unfortunate incident, and it was a misfortune to be sharing because a lot of people were involved, and we had to recommend that they be sanctioned very seriously, which they were indeed sanctioned. But the point I have come to realize over the years is that Abuja is continuously growing, and no matter how the Department of Revenue Control tries, they cannot monitor every site. And so I think a time has come for them to begin to outsource some of those functions, because there are professionals that live in the neighborhood of these structures. If you are talking about Garki, in Garki you see many architects, structural engineers, electrical, mechanical, and all sorts that live there, who may be retired or in private practice, or even those who are in service. It doesn't matter. Government could deliberately create a kind of a hub for all built environment professionals that live in every district in Abuja to create a kind of JV. it's a loose, it's not anything formal.
Okay, before we get to the what should be done to ensure that we avert this. Now, some of we've talked about this bidding collapse here in the program, and one of the experts mentioned something that is of very great importance to this discussion. He's mentioned the fact that sometimes you see one engineer. Of course, he mentioned that when during the course of a building project, there are different field of engineers that are part of this project, field of professionals, that are usually part of the building project. But you see a situation where a particular engineer will take up all the responsibility. He will be the architect, he will be the civil engineer, of course he will come again, electrical engineer and everything. So how can the role and responsibilities of these professionals be better defined and enforced during a building project?
Well, that would be an assumption. That claim is an assumption. I do at least understand the processes in the Development Control Department. For every engineer, you have a seal and a stamp. Everything you do, you have to seal. So that way you can be traced. There is no way an electrical or mechanical will go and do civil or structural work. So for engineers, they will do only that for which they are trained, because the consequences are there. Investigation will be conducted on this, and if any engineer is found culpable, he will not go unpunished, because the punishment is always severe, because there is the engineer regulatory disciplinary panel that is has the force of law. In fact, it is instituted by the CGN, inaugurated by the CGN, and the CGN also appoints the legal assessor. In fact, the immediate past legal assessor is the current Attorney General of the Federation. I mean, that is to tell you how important that panel is. The panel will sit and come to a decision on any engineer and they can withdraw your license, and you are virtually finished, because there's nothing as terrible as a disgrace by your peers. It's not like people who do not know are accusing you of something, but people, your own peers, people who are in the same profession, who understand it just like you, now come and point out how ineffective you've been in practice, how negligent or how ignorant, how incompetent, and then they now make a judgment on you. That disgrace is something that lasts a lifetime. So people don't normally joke with that. However, if in the course of that there's any mistake, there's no mercy for that. So I don't see that as a cause, because what they do in the Development Control is that whoever is bringing a drawing will seal the drawing. So you are identifiable. There's no ghost professional. The architect will seal his own, who does the drawing. The construction engineer will seal his own. The electrical mechanical will seal. So all of them have seal. If the failure comes from, if it's like this now, it's usually structural. So what will pull a building down is structural. So it's not architectural or electrical, mechanical. Usually it's structural, because the frame is the skeleton of the building that failed. That's why the thing crumbled. So they will have to look for who is the structural engineer. Was the structural engineer involved in the supervision? That is why I gave you that example of what often happens. People do the designs, they take them to the Development Control, they get approval. Once they get the approval, they say, okay, they don't want this. We have done stage one. The next stage, we have somebody else who do it for us. Okay. And you can't force the client to. You can't impose yourself on a client.
And sometimes too, the clients will want to cut costs.
No, the reason often is that because there's nothing as good as the person who do the design doing the supervision. That is, it makes it life easy for you.
Okay, we'll take a short break now and listen to some reactions from people around where the building collapsed in Garki here, as put together by Suleiman Abdul Wahab. Don't go away.
how many people died there?
No, nobody died. Nobody died. Around 8 o'clock. And that time, their laborer come out, go chop. They are go chop, and this thing can happen.
But the engineers that he gave the contract to, you know, they have been breaking this place every now and then and rebuild. But unfortunately, we noticed that the place was like two-story duplex. All of a sudden, they put another floor on top and another one on top. So I believe that is what is causing this.
You can go there yourself. You see, even the other side of the building, height is soaked water from up to the down. You understand? I think because it's not well built and it's taking water, it contributed for the downfall of the building. But we thank God no life is lost.
We are not going to live here until we are able to bring down the building completely, and we shall cordon the site. The premises is going to be taken over by the lead agency, Department of Development Control.
It was a passerby who called me and told me that that one building in this neighborhood of Unity House, the building is caving in as it's passing.
So the foundation matter. They don't care what it is. This is going to bring money for them. They are only after their money. They are not after the life of people that are going to occupy their place tomorrow. They build anyhow and bring people that they don't have the knowledge of what they are doing.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we are talking about the frequent building collapse in Abuja. And of course, we had the acting DG FEMA there talk, Florence Wanageme, and of course the present Commissioner of Police, Benneth Igwe, talking there, the other respondent. Now, what professional explanation will you have for what one of the persons there said that all of a sudden we thought it was maybe a duplex, all of a sudden they added more floors and all of that. So
it speaks to what I said earlier about the greed about the developers. If the person was building the house for himself, or he may not have done that, but he built, maybe he did 2 floors, and I realized, look, I can make more money. Maybe as well, now that the cost of rents have gone up, you say, okay, I can make more money by putting something on top. But what you do when you come to that decision is to go back to your engineer who did the design, to do a redesign for you, and you take it back to the development control for approval. If it's okay to have such a structure of that height in that neighborhood, they will approve it for you. But doing self-help is what happened. And you see, everybody, everybody in Nigeria were interesting people. Everybody can be called doctor. Anybody can be called doctor. Anybody can be called engineer. You see, if I sometimes you hear people engineer. If I have had a case where I've been on the site and I was talking to a craftsman, somebody was calling engineer. I thought it was me. It was not.
The roadside mechanic becomes an engineer.
Yes, everybody is an engineer. So I can understand why the lady was calling the engineer. You see, like I say, truly, and I'm not saying this to defend engineering or engineers. The truth, engineering is a regulated profession, and there's always provision for audit trail. There's nothing you do that will not be traced to you.
So what is the body now? You were former president of CORE,
yes,
and of course a former president of NSC.
Exactly.
So what is this body doing to check?
They didn't see them. There's what we call engineering regulation monitoring. They have also gone there, and they will take samples also. Sorry, I think the decision to say they'll put down the structure before leaving also is not very nice. We need to leave the structure for experts to have a look at it.
But shouldn't they be proactive? Because now they are being reactive after.
No, it's not reactive. It's not their. It means they should have been there when the building was built.
Yes,
it's not their business to do that. No, it's not. It's not. You see, the truth is, you know, it's just like a court. A judge, you pass by a crime scene, even if he stops to look, maybe it's because he wants to help. It does not help. When it comes to court, you cannot say I was present when this thing happened and use that to come to judgment. Koren is a regulator, and regulators don't just jump into the fray. They do it in a sequential manner. Even as president, if the president of NSC or Koren goes there, he's not going to have authority to do much until the regulator, the engineering regulation team come. They are the ones that do the due diligence, go step by step. There are sequences they will go through and get a result. Because whatever you are getting from there is something that can be taken to court. In the event that it results in going to court, you need that those materials to also go to court. So it's not something you just do arbitrarily like that.
Now, let's also talk about the issue of substandard materials. Or, you know, how much of it has really contributed to the collapse of buildings?
A lot. You see, the area that we have issues like this, at the end of it, okay, you can design your structure. You say you want to do this column, and you need to do the reinforcement bars of this particular size, say 12 inches, 12 mm, or 15 mm, or 20 mm, depending on the size. Now, you go and buy from the market something that is that same size that you wanted. But unfortunately, the strength may not be up to that, because in manufacturing that reinforcement bar, they used some standard procedure.
Oh, okay. Having said that, I'll have to stop you there. So that we'll now look at you know, the way forward. What are the key steps needed to significantly reduce the incidence of building collapse, especially in Abuja? Of course, in Nigeria, not just in Nigeria.
Abuja. See, what is done in all civilized societies is that the rules are set clearly, which already exist, and compliance is mandatory. There are no options, no discretion. If you design a structure, you must follow that design. And the monitors will check. When they come, they check. They come with equipment and check. That is, they check, for instance, you see your depth of slab is 120 for instance, it has to be so. Whatever you put as a specification must be so. And the people who have, you keep samples of everything, which will be also checked. That way, this thing will not happen. Secondly, you also have to use professional, because a professional is a trained individual, and there are a few trade secrets that he has in his or her head that he will use to help you achieve your result. Just like you go to the hospital, two people may go to the hospital at the same time, appear to present the same kind of ailment. Symptoms, maybe a coughing. The treatment they will give to one A will not be what they will give to B, because of the particular circumstance of B, the history of B. The same thing, an engineer will go to a site in Garki, and what you design for the same type of structure, we don't know what you design even in Garki, what is it called? Garki 2. So this thing, there is nothing uniform about the environment in which you put. So everyone has his own design. And until people learn to respect professionals to do it for them, we can have this problem. But the solution is simple: obey the law. But government should help itself by outsourcing some of these services. Okay,
which means all hands must be on deck to check, the incidence of building collapse in Nigeria. Well, this is where we draw the curtain for today's episode of Nigeria Today. A very big thank you to Engineer Kashim Ali, who is the former president, Nigerian Society of Engineers, NSE, and former president, Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, Koren. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts with us. And we do sincerely apologize that Mr. Bashir Garga, Zonal Director NEMA, North Central, was not able to join us. We understand he was stuck in a traffic because of the rain. So thank you so much for being part of the program. Don't forget, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also check out this episode and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I'm Ikaria Clinton. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.